Hello dear students, today we are going to discuss about the magnetic properties of transition metal complexes. Magnetic properties are important part of transition metal characteristics. So, today our lecture plan is to discuss about the magnetic properties of transition metals, the magnetic moment acquired by the transition metal complexes, and the magnetic susceptibility attained by the transition metal complexes within external magnetic field. Now, effect of temperature on magnetic properties, because the temperature affects deeply or sharply on the various magnetic properties that we will study in our session. Now, from where the magnetic properties originates within transition metal complexes, it is an important question, the origination of magnetic properties. The spinning of charged particle generates a magnetic field around the charged particle. So, electron and proton, these are the charged particles spinning on its own axis. So, having a magnetic field around it which generates a magnetic moment. This can be easily understood with this figure. Here electron is the charged particle and it is spinning around its own axis. So, it is generating a magnetic field around its vicinity. Here this magnetic field generates a magnetic moment whose direction is parallel to the axis of rotation of charged particle. Now, the motion of an electron. Electron can be produce motion in two ways. First, it is a contribution of magnetic behavior due to that particular electron. Electron can create magnetic moment in two different ways. The first one is electron is spinning on its own axis. That means, the spinning of the electron on its own axis. Second, the electron revolving around the nucleus. Suppose nucleus is at the center and electron is revolving around a closed periphery or closed path. Now, the motion of the electron can also give the magnetic field or to cancel out the magnetic field, because for unpaired electrons magnetic field is generated by a single electron in its vicinity, whereas for the paired electrons the two electrons can cancel out each other's magnetic field. For this, from this figure we can understand this. Here this is the electron which is spinning on its own axis, and from this it will give mu s and mu l. Spinning on its own axis gives mu s. Mu s means it is spinning on its own axis generating magnetic moment around its periphery, and this magnetic field or magnetic moment is generated by its own spinning. Now, the second is the revolving of electron around the nucleus. This is also a charged particle moving around the nucleus, and it also generates magnetic moment, and this is the magnetic moment generated by its orbital motion. On the basis of these two types of motions, we have broadly two types of magnetic substances. First, the dimagnetic substances, the compounds which is having all electrons in paired form, as a result of which the net magnetic moment value is 0. These substances are repelled by external magnetic field. So, in this example, here all the electrons are in paired form and cancels out each other magnetic field in the vicinity. So, the net magnetic moment produced by these types of substances are cancelled out from each other electron in anti-parallel way. Now, the paramagnetic behavior. The paramagnetic substances are those which have unpaired electrons, means one electron is present in an orbital. So, this unpaired electron have some resultant magnetic value of moment. These substances are attracted by external magnetic field, because the single electron is generating a magnetic field around its vicinity, and further it gives a magnetic moment value, and that magnetic moment is being attracted by the external magnetic field. So, these types of substances are attracted by external magnetic field. Now, higher the number of unpaired electrons, the greater will be the paramagnetic character, because as we increase the unpaired number of electrons, the magnetic field is attracted by the external magnetic field. As number of unpaired electron increases, the magnetic field generated by a substance or generated by an atom increases, and it also more attracted by the external magnetic field. Here is an example in which d orbitals have single electron. In single electron, these are unpaired electron, each having a magnetic moment separately, and this magnetic moment or magnetic field is being attracted by the externally magnetic field. Here, if we have one electron, then it is weakly attracted by the external magnetic field. On having two unpaired electron, it is more closely attracted by the external magnetic field. As the number goes on increasing, the attraction power of the external magnetic field towards this electron generated magnetic field goes on increasing. So, the paramagnetic behavior goes on increasing while we increase the number of unpaired electron. Now, the orbital magnetic moment, what is this? Electron moving in a circular orbit is similar to the flow of electronic charge in a circular vial. If any electron is moving in a circular orbit like that of nucleus is at the center and electron is revolving around the nucleus, and it is like that of electric current is flowing in a circular wire. The moment of the magnetic field so generated is given by the product of that electric current and the surface area of the orbit. Now, this orbital magnetic moment is given by I multiplied by A. I is the electric current multiplied by the cross section of the area of the orbit, which is further given by E omega upon 2 pi c, that is I value, that is multiplied by area of cross section is pi r square. R is the radius of the periphery of orbit. R is the radius and omega is the angular velocity of the electron, with which velocity the electron is moving in a circular periphery. Now, c is the velocity of light with which light travels in the medium. Now, E is the electronic charge acquired by the electron. Now, this orbital angular momentum, which is given by its orbital motion, is perpendicular to the plane of the orbit and is given by L is equal to under root L L plus 1 h upon 2 pi. Here L is the orbital angular momentum quantum number. This orbital angular momentum is given by this expression, again L is equal to under root L plus 1 h upon 2 pi. H upon 2 pi indicates that orbital angular momentum is in a quantized way. Also, the orbital angular momentum of a particle of mass m moving in a circular radius having r is given by L is equal to m omega r square. This is the angular momentum which a mass m particle moving in a circular radius m r omega square. Now, we can equate these two equations, both are giving orbital angular momentum. So, equating these two equations, we can get L is equal to m omega r square is equal to under root L L plus 1 h upon 2 pi. Now, from this we can get the value of omega r square by putting this m to the next side of the equation. It will give omega r square is equal to under root L L plus 1 h upon 2 pi m. This becomes equal to r L. Now, the orbital angular momentum value omega r square, substituting in this, omega mu L gives E omega 2 pi c into pi r square, as we have discussed in earlier slide. So, substituting this omega r square value, we get mu L is equal to under root L L plus 1 EH upon 4 pi mc, and this EH upon 4 pi mc is a constant value for a particular electron or a particular particle, and this is indicated by Bohr magneton Bm. And you can also assume that this EH upon 4 pi mc, that is called as Bohr magneton, is a unit in which a mu L is measured. So, always the magnetic moment value mu L is incorporated with the Bohr magneton value, and the mu L expression combinedly can be given in the form of under root L L plus 1 half to the power half into Bm Bohr magneton, that is equal to EH upon 4 pi mc. Now, similarly, like that of orbital motion, spin magnetic moment is also a part of magnetic moment. Spin angular momentum, which is perpendicular to the plane of the orbit, is given by S. Here S is equal to under root S S plus 1 h upon 2 pi. Like that of orbital angular momentum, the spin magnetic momentum is also a quantized value. That is why it is given in the form of h upon 2 pi, where S is the spin angular momentum quantum number and its value would be plus half. For magnetic moment due to spin of an electron is given by spin only formula, which is equal to mu s is equal to 2 under root S S plus 1 into mu b. Mu b again is the Bohr magneton value, that is EH upon 4 pi mc. Here S is the spin quantum number, and mu b EH upon 4 pi mc is again called Bohr magneton. Now, for n number of unpaired electrons, if suppose any substance is containing n number of unpaired electron, then the above value can be deduced into another expression. The total spin would be S is equal to n by 2, and the another expression, that is the simplified version of the spin magnetic moment in form of spin, the mu s is equal to under root n n plus 2. This is the simplified version of this mu s is equal to 2 under root S S plus 1 into mu b. So, in a simplified way, we only consider the unpaired electron as n, and it would be deduced in the form of mu s is equal to under root n n plus 2 and can be used directly in the form of this expression. Now, for the magnetic properties that we are discussing for the transition metal complexes, some important terms that students should know. What are these terms? First, the magnetic induction. Second one is the magnetic susceptibility attained by the various transition metal complexes. The magnetic permeability, how much magnetic permeability they attain, and the intensity of magnetization, up to how much amount a substance can be magnetized. So, first we will discuss about the magnetic induction. What is magnetic induction? When a substance is placed in a magnetic field or in an external magnetic field, the magnetism is induced in that substance, and this phenomena of magnetic induction is called magnetic induction, because here in that substance that we are placing in an external magnetic field, magnetism is inducing. So, this phenomena is called magnetic induction. It also represents the total number of lines of forces crossing within a unit area. So, it is also called as magnetic flux density, and it is represented by B. Here from this figure we can see that it is the magnetic flux density, how much magnetic lines of forces crossing within a unit area. These are the magnetic lines of forces, and we will study how much lines of forces is crossing through this cross sectional area. So, this is the magnetic flux density, and this is the magnetic induction when a substance is placed within the external magnetic field. This magnetic induction is given by the formula of B is equal to H plus 4 pi I. Now, intensity of magnetization. What is the intensity of magnetization? How much amount of magnetization can be present in a magnetic substance? Intensity of magnetization can be defined as the magnetic moment per unit volume, means how much magnetic moment we are observing in a per unit volume of substance. Here m is the magnetic moment and v is the volume of that substance. Now, the magnetic susceptibility, it is a measure of the capacity of a substance to take up magnetization in an applied magnetic field. Suppose a substance is placed in a magnetic field and we will study about the capacity of that substance, how much magnetization that can be taken up by the substance, and this is called the magnetic susceptibility. Now, magnetic induction, as we have studied in previous slide, is given by B is equal to H plus 4 pi I, where I is called the intensity of magnetization. In the previous slide we have studied about that. H is the applied magnetic field, means the external magnetic field that we have applied on the substance, and dividing this equation B is equal to H plus 4 pi I by H, we get B upon H, that becomes equal to 1 plus 4 pi I upon H. Here B upon H is equal to 1 plus 4 pi kappa. This I upon H is replaced by the new term kappa, and this kappa is called magnetic susceptibility per unit volume, because the intensity of magnetization is also per unit volume. That is why the kappa, which is calculated from the I upon H, is also in the form of per unit volume, and this B upon H is called magnetic permeability. So, from this equation we can easily understand that kappa is the magnetic susceptibility and it is a ratio of intensity of magnetization with that of H, means external magnetic field applied. Now, magnetic permeability. What is magnetic permeability? It is defined as the ratio of density of lines of forces, means the magnetic flux within the substance to the density of such lines in the absence of that substance, means the magnetic flux density in presence of the substance with the ratio of in absence of the substance, and it is given by beta upon H. Now, from this figure, here is the magnetic lines of force in the presence of substance. When we remove this substance, then how much magnetic flux density is present, and the ratio of this B magnetic flux density in presence of substance to the H externally magnetic applied field in absence of the substance. This gives us the ratio of B upon H, and it is called the magnetic permeability. Now, how we calculate the magnetic moment? Now, calculation of the magnetic moment can be understood with the help of this equation. The magnetic moment due to spin of electron is given by spin only formula, which is equal to mu s is equal to 2 under root s plus 1 into mu b. Now, for n number of unpaired electron, we also got a simplified formula. What is that? Mu s is equal to under root n plus 2 multiplied by mu b, that is Bohr magneton, which becomes equal to E h upon 4 pi m c. A student can understand how to calculate the magnetic moment. Dear student, here is an example of titanium 3 positive, which has only one unpaired electron. So, for this titanium 3 positive tripositive complex, S is equal to half, and from this half S is equal to half can be substituted in this equation, mu s is equal to 2 under root s plus 1. By substituting this value in this equation, we get mu s is equal to under root 3, and the value of under root 3 is 1.732, which is multiplied by Bohr magneton, and this Bohr magneton we have studied earlier is becomes equal to Eh upon 4 pi mc. Now for 2 unpaired electron, similarly n is equal to 2 for 2 unpaired electron. Here mu s is equal to, now we will apply this n is equal to 2 in another equation, which is the simplified version of mu s only equation. Here is the mu s is equal to under root n plus 2 into mu b. From this, substituting n is equal to 2 in this equation, that is number of unpaired electrons, we get 2 into 1.41, that is 2.828 Bohr magneton. So from these two formulas, either we have a spin value or we have unpaired number of electron. From both we can easily calculate the magnetic moment value for any compound, any complex or any atom. How practically we can measure the magnetic moment value? This is the theoretical version we have studied. From mu s we can calculate theoretically the value of magnetic moment, but how practically we can calculate the value of magnetic moment? There are two methods, one Gauss method and second is Faraday method. Now we will discuss about the first method, Gauss method. In Gauss method, increase in weight gives a measure of paramagnetism in the substance. In vacuum, the force acting on that sample becomes equal to F is equal to half A kappa h square. In air, this equation can be modified. F is equal to half A kappa minus kappa dash h square, and this kappa is the magnetic susceptibility per unit volume, as we have studied in previous slide. So this F is equal to half A kappa minus kappa dash h square. Here A is the cross sectional area of the cylinder in which sample is placed. Now this can be seen in the schematic diagram of this Gauss balance. Here there are two magnets, in between external magnetic field is produced, and this is the sample which is placed in a cylinder, and this cylinder is balanced by a putting some weight on the pan. So here in this formula, H is the intensity of this externally magnetic field which is applied in between these two magnets. K is the volume susceptibility, means the magnetic susceptibility per unit volume. Kappa dash is the volume susceptibility of air. If this experiment is carried out in vacuum, then there is no need for air susceptibility. But if this experiment is carried out in air or in normal environment, then in air there is also maybe the presence of magnetic susceptibility. So we will subtract this air susceptibility from this magnetic susceptibility of the substance. Now next is the Faraday method. The Faraday method is more precisely observe change, increase in weight and measure of paramagnetism in the substance within inhomogeneous field. This is the important factor, that in this Faraday method less weight 0.1 to 10 milligram can be measured the magnetic susceptibility of the substance within inhomogeneous field. So the formula through which we calculate the force acting on the sample, that is F is equal to m chi h naught del h upon del x, where this is the Faraday balance. It is like that of Gauss balance, in which two magnets are placed, in between that external magnetic field is produced and the substance is placed in between the two magnets within externally applied magnetic field, and there is a attraction or repulsion can be measured in terms of weight. Here the important thing is the paramagnetic substances are attracted by the external magnetic field, which is in between these two magnets, and if the paramagnetic substance is placed in between these two magnets, it is attracted by these two magnets or externally magnetic field, and as it is attracted by the external magnetic field, there is a requirement of weight to balance this electrobalance. Here F is the force acting on this sample, which is exerted by the attraction of external magnetic field. In this Faraday method, F is given by m chi h naught del h upon del x, where A is the cross sectional area of this cylinder, in which the substance is placed. H is the intensity of non-uniform magnetic field. In Gauss balance, it is important that if we place some material or some substance in the cylinder, it should be uniform. So, there is a need of uniform magnetic field, but here we have del h upon del x in Faraday method, which is equal to the magnetic field gradient, and from this we can easily measure the non-uniform magnetic field intensity. So, H is the intensity of non-uniform magnetic field, del h upon del x gives us the magnetic field gradient within this region. Chi is the molar or specific magnetic susceptibility. The important difference between the Gauss balance and the Faraday balance are two. First, in Faraday balance we can more precisely measure the paramagnetic character, and second, this paramagnetic character can be measured in the form of molar or specific magnetic susceptibility in case of Faraday method. Now, magnetic susceptibility versus temperature relation. The magnetic susceptibility of a paramagnetic substances, that is chi m, is also depends upon temperature, and this temperature dependency is explained by Curie and can be expressed in the form of Curie's law. Here chi m equal to C upon T. When we plot a graph between T and chi m, we get a parabolic curve. Here C is a constant called Curie constant. Now, the magnetic susceptibility is changing inversely with that of temperature. Here is the inverse relationship between magnetic susceptibility and the temperature, and if we plot a graph between magnetic susceptibility chi m and 1 upon T, then we will get a straight line. But in most of the cases, Curie's law is not strictly followed by the paramagnetic substances. In place of getting a straight line, that is crossing origin, we get a line deviating the path of origin. So, West corrected this expression with another constant called Curie-West law. Here Curie-West law states that magnetic susceptibility is inversely proportional to T minus theta, where theta is the West constant, and if we plot a graph between chi m and 1 upon T, then we will get a straight line including the theta West constant. Now, what is effective magnetic moment? When Curie law is obeyed, the product of molar susceptibility chi m and temperature is a constant value, and this can be calculated from this expression chi m is equal to n naught mu square upon k T. From this we can calculate mu square value becomes equal to 3 k T chi m upon n naught. The effective magnetic moment in terms of magnetic moment, magnetic susceptibility can be defined by this expression. The mu becomes equal to under root 3 k T chi m upon n naught. From this we can calculate, because 3 k T chi is an constant value, here n naught is a constant value. From 3 k T upon n naught we can calculate the value of mu becomes equal to 2.828 under root T chi m into Bohr magneton. if Curie-Weiss law is obeyed and intermolecular interactions are considered, then the magnetic moment is given by considering the Weiss constant. Here mu becomes equal to 2.828 under root T minus theta chi m. In Curie-Weiss law, we have to just replace T by the expression of T minus theta, and we get the corrected version of that Curie-Weiss law. Now, after the broad consideration of diamagnetic and paramagnetic substances, here is the temperature dependency is an important factor. So, there are another types of magnetic compounds available. One is the ferromagnetism. What is ferromagnetism? When the interacting magnetic dipoles on the neighboring atoms tends to assume a parallel alignment, then the substances are called ferromagnetic substances. In such substances, above the Curie temperature, the thermal energies are able to randomize the orientations, but below that temperature, Curie temperature, alignment becomes dominant, and the susceptibility that increases rapidly with decreasing temperature. Examples: nickel, cobalt, chromium dioxide, etc. Here ferromagnetism can be understood with the help of this graph and picture. Here, in presence of magnetic field, magnetic dipoles are arranged in a parallel fashion. Here, when we plot a graph between magnetic susceptibility and temperature, we have studied in previous slide that below Curie temperature there is a sharp decrease in magnetic susceptibility, but after that temperature, Curie temperature, slow decrease in magnetic susceptibility is observed. So, this is ferromagnetic character of some transition metal complexes. Now, antiferromagnetism: when the substance is placed in external magnetic field, the magnetic dipoles tends to arrange in an antiparallel fashion, means in an opposite direction. Such substances above Niels temperature, thermal energy is large, that is kT is large, and it prevents the effective alignments of the magnetic dipoles. This thermal energy is very high, so it prevents the alignment of the magnetic dipoles in the same direction. For example, manganese oxide, manganese dioxide, iron oxide and nickel oxide are such examples. So, this is the magnetic dipole arrangement fashion for the antiferromagnetic substances. Here the kT is so much amount of large that it can prevent these anti-parallel alignment towards the in parallel direction. So, it restricts the movement of dipoles within one direction. When we plot a graph between magnetic susceptibility and temperature, we will get this type of curve. Before Niels temperature, the magnetic susceptibility increases with the temperature, whereas after the Niels temperature, there is a sharp decrease in magnetic susceptibility. So, these types of substances whose magnetic dipoles are arranged in opposite direction are called ferromagnetic substances. Now, ferrimagnetism is another concept in which a substance is placed in magnetic field, its magnetic dipoles takes its position in antiparallel arrangement, but they do not cancel out completely each other, and it has some magnetic moment value remains, like that of antiferromagnetic compounds where dipoles are arranged in opposite direction, but in ferromagnetism dipoles are arranged in antiparallel arrangement, but the less number of dipoles are placed in antiparallel arrangement. So, this is the arrangement of magnetic dipoles within the ferromagnetism compound. Here larger number of magnetic dipoles are pointing upward, whereas less number of magnetic dipoles are pointing downward. So, the resultant of these two magnetic dipole is that there is some net magnetic moment value remains within this ferromagnetic compound. Now, temperature dependent magnetism can be understood with the help of this graphical representation, and from this graphical representation it is a graph between magnetic susceptibility, molar magnetic susceptibility chi m, and temperature. Here the anti-ferromagnetic compounds, here is a sharp decrease as temperature increases, but after the Curie point there is no sharp decrease, there is a slow decrease in magnetic susceptibility for ferromagnetic compounds. Anti-ferromagnetic compounds below Niels temperature, Niels point, here sharp increase in magnetic susceptibility. After that Niels point, when we increase the temperature, there is a decrease in magnetic susceptibility, and the paramagnetic behavior of the substances can be understood with the parabolic curve of paramagnetic substances. Here is the parabolic curve obtained by the paramagnetic substances when we plot a graph between molar magnetic susceptibility and temperature. Now, we will summarize our session from these points. The electron can create magnetic moment in two different ways. What are these two different ways? Electron spinning on its own axis and the electron revolving around nucleus in a closed periphery. So, there are two types of magnetic moment observed here, mu s and mu l, the magnetic moment due to its spinning on its own axis, and the second one is electron revolving around the nucleus in a closed periphery, that will give us the mu l, that is orbital angular momentum. Now, the magnetic moment can be calculated from this formula, that is mu s is equal to 2 under root s s plus 1 multiplied by mu b. Mu b is the Bohr magneton value given by E h upon 4 pi m c, and it is also a unit of measuring magnetic moment. In a simplified way, if n number of unpaired electrons present, then mu s becomes equal to under root n n plus 2 multiplied by mu b. Magnetic susceptibility is temperature dependent, and this can be given by Curie-Weiss law. Here magnetic susceptibility is inversely proportional to 1 upon T minus theta, and the magnetic susceptibility and magnetic moment can be correlated with the help of this expression, mu equal to 2.828 under the root of T minus theta chi m multiplied by Bohr magneton. This Bohr magneton again is the E h upon 4 pi m c. Now, the comparison of magnetic properties and its dependency upon temperature can be concluded in this slide also. Ferromagnetic substances below Curie temperature, spins are aligned parallel to magnetic domains. In ferromagnetic substances, all spins are aligned in a magnetic domain in parallel fashion, whereas for antiferromagnetic substances below Niels point, spins are aligned in antiparallel in magnetic domains. In a antiparallel fashion, the magnetic dipoles are arranged in antiparallel way. So, these can cancel out each other's magnetic domain. So, next is the ferrimagnetic. Below Curie temperature, spins are aligned antiparallel but do not cancels out each other, because the maximum number of magnetic domains are aligned in upward direction, whereas some magnetic domains are aligned in downward direction. So, there is some net magnetic moment remains in ferromagnetic substances. For paramagnetic substances, spins are randomly oriented, any of the others above Tc or Tn. Here some magnetic domains are, or some magnetic dipoles are arranged in upward direction and some are in downward direction, but a maximum value are arranged in upward direction or downward direction, and it will give a net magnetic moment in handsome value. In the next session, we will discuss about the orbital contribution towards the magnetic moment and quenching of the orbital magnetic moment. So, we will discuss in our next session in deep way towards the orbital angular momentum along with the spin angular momentum. Thank you.